Smile API is providing instant access to employee-owned and authorized data for any employer or platform with use cases on identity verification, reviewing employment history, fast-tracking applications, and informing credit approvals. John Pabellon is Chief Product Officer and founding team at Smile API. In this episode, we'll get to know more about how Smile API is empowering people through data ownership and financial inclusion in the Philippines. So, hello, John. Kamusta? And welcome to Startup Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you, Johnny, for inviting us and having us in your program. So, hello everyone listening to the startup to the show.
Yes, I'm very excited no, to learn more about Smile API kasi it also has that aspect that it enables data ownership and financial inclusion, especially for the Philippines. Pero let's start with the first question. So ano nga ba ang Smile API?
So very simple lang ano. So yung Smile kasi we believe that access to your own data is a basic right that everyone should have. So everyone should be able to use their own data to leverage their data to get access to more opportunities. So the insight that we have is okay. So if can you use the data to get access, particularly to financial services? So for example, for getting a loan, right? So typically when you're getting a loan or maybe insurance or any form of financial service, palaging tinatanong sa'yo, okay, meron ka bang employment, number one? Do you have income? Can you actually repay the loan or pay the insurance premium or top up your investment? So things like that. So ang insight namin is madami kasing tao wala naman silang bank account eh. So sa traditional credit scoring or traditional assessment of credit, tinitingnan nila yung bank account mo, titingnan nila kung meron kang credit card, meron kang tinatawag na credit history. Pero ang problema sa Pilipinas, kakaunti lang ang may ganun. So the coverage of people who have actually access to formal credit and a formal credit history is very few. Maybe 3 out of 10 lang ang meron. 7 out of 10 do not. So our big insight was, okay, a lot of people can live without a bank account or can live without a credit card, but not a lot of people can live without a job. And can we leverage that data around that job and translate that to a means to have access to credit and other financial services? So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's true actually. It's a really big problem yung actually financial inclusion first of all sa Philippines. And you've brought up nga no, parang lack of data and lack of access to your own data. I'm really interested no on that aspect of Smile API that it provides data ownership especially for Filipinos kasi totoo na right now parang sometimes yung data mismo natin na atin yun privacy natin yung kumbaga is our character, kumbaga it's our profile nakukuha ng madali ng when we use the internet and nagagamit pa ng iba minsan against us pa nga pero I really like that aspect na you own your data and you can use it for being included sa financial ecosystem pero I'd like to ask how exactly kumbaga parang a person can gain access to his or her own data parang anong data yung maaari niyang magamit I mean how does this kumbaga what's the picture kumbaga
Sige. So very simple. So right now kasi our data is really scattered across different systems, no? So when we work, 'di ba, we provide that data to our employer. So that data is typically stored in an employment system like an HR or payroll system. Or let's say we moonlight, nagmo-moonlighting tayo kunwari, we work at Fiverr or Upwork or some of these other gig platforms. A lot of your data is also there. Or maybe you pay insurance contributions to the SSS or GSIS or a lot of these which are mandatory if you're employed. So a lot of about who you are, your identity, your contact information, plus your employment history, saan ka nagtrabaho before, plus often kung ano din yung kinita mo, kung how much yung kinikita mo. So a lot of that data is already there. So all we do is we collect that data. We don't ask you to provide that data again, to input that data again. We just provide the means to collect that data, aggregate that data, and normalize yung data, meaning make it comparable from platform to platform, structure it, and then provide an API so that with your consent, other parties can access it, like a bank or a credit company or a utility company and things like that. So everything is done with your consent. So we're just parang think of it as an assistant which helps you gather your data and share that data to others.
Yeah, actually, it's very amazing. I'm actually mind blown, no? Like with this value that Smile API is providing. Kasi it's true, no, na hindi siya ganun ka-elegant, kumbaga. Pero I mean, it's actually very important. Like, first of all, it's true, nakalat-kalat yung data natin when you apply to a job, when you apply to insurance, whatever, hospital, whatever. Pero I'm imagining na like how Smile API is gonna work is parang before you apply, before you send your data, dadaan mo na Smile API. So parang magiging centralized warehouse or database siya. And you also have control. Parang when you want other people or employers to see that data, pwede mong piliin lang kung ano lang yung makuha nila. Is that right? Is that how Smile API basically works?
That's correct. But there is a important distinction we have to make. We're not really a database. We don't store that data. We just basically collect it and forward that data. So para kaming router, di ba? Kunwari, parang router. We just route that data, transmit it. We are not in the business of keeping your data or selling it to third parties. So that way, you're assured na it's only shared to the party you trust.
Yeah, so it's really an API. Kumbaga, it's a bridge, kumbaga. Parang connection na may mga gates, kumbaga, na control nyo by the, kumbaga, nakakommand din nung owner nung data na yun. That's really amazing. And I see sa background that Smile is one trusted source for employment data in Asia. Aside from being parang trustable and parang verified or basically andun yung data, what are the parang other principles that Smile API has in doing everything, in doing this all, kumbaga?
Sure. So one is yung nga, we believe very much in yung principles of data privacy. So everything has to be done with the consent of the user, the data subject, as the National Privacy Commission calls it. So we believe that everything has to be done with their consent and their knowledge. It has to be transparent. It has to be for a legitimate purpose. So we're not going to scam you or steal your identity. We're just going to provide it with the party you trust. So we will identify kanino ba share yung data. So it's for a legitimate purpose. The other one is proportionality. So we want to make sure that we only collect the data that's relevant for what you want to get. Let's say for a loan, yung relevant lang. Let's say yung income nga and employment and of course your identity. The other one is to make it digital, all digital, make it seamless, make the experience better for wag na pahirapan ng Pilipino kasi dami nang nagpapahirap sa atin. Wag na yung paghiram or pag-apply ng trabaho, gawin na lang simple. Make it all digital, make it seamless for everyone.
Yeah, and I just want to ask this question, no? Parang do you think Filipinos especially should be parang more literate about data ownership? Kasi parang right now, even me, parang I just give away my data, I don't care, go. So do you think Filipinos especially, no, should parang be more mindful kung saan napupunta yung mga data nila, especially on the internet? What do you think about this issue?
Definitely. So you should think of your own data as an asset. That's something I think not just Filipinos, everyone I think misses that point, that it's an asset that you own. Para yang kung meron kang cash sa bangko, kung meron kang crypto or meron kang stocks, di ba, all these are assets. But the other thing that you have as an asset is also your own personal data. So dapat you're careful. You should be able to, like any asset, you should be careful with that asset. You should be careful with your data. You should also manage that data and hopefully make that data work for you. So have a return from that data.
Yeah, data is the new oil nga, ano, or something like that. Parang dapat data natin, pwede natin pagkakitaan sa mga. I mean, it's our own eh. Wag natin ibigay sa ibang tao basta-basta, sa ibang institution basta-basta. And I think parang yun yung nagiging trade-off, ano, especially with the digital world. Parang now kasi with the digital world, mas madali mag-access, mag-transact, mag-usap-usap. So, yung data mo, mas kung saan napupunta. So, parang trade-off din. Mas madali nga sa mas convenient. Pero, mas nawawalan tayo ng control sa ating data. So, I think Smile API is parang solving the trade-off. Eh. Parang, mas madali siyang mapasa sa, for example, when you want to go to an employer nga, or to apply for an insurance, whatever. Pero, you still have control. So, is that right? So, parang, ginagawa niyo mas madali, pero ginagawa niyo at the same time, kumbaga, mas, for data privacy, kumbaga, is that right?
Correct. Mas madali. Tapos meron kang control. May control ka. So, at any time using our technology, pwede mo i-revoke yung access. So, sabihin mo, ayoko na i-share. Revoke. So, mawawala yun sa system. So, para hindi na ma-share sa current.
Wow, it's really amazing. It's really giving Filipinos especially ownership to our own data. But can you just share parang ano yung technology behind? I mean, I'm just imagining how does this work like on the back end maybe, or parang ano ba yung API mismo, yung mga developers that's building this product, especially you, Jan, as the CPO or Chief Product Officer. So parang what's the product really behind Smile API?
Sure. So we built this technology from the ground up. So we are very lucky to have a very smart team. So we have a very smart CTO. His name is Bond. He's a brilliant guy. We have brilliant product people. So shout out kay Angela and kay Kat who are working on it. Kay La Owen, yeah. No, I can name the entire team, but they're all brilliant. We're very lucky to have a brilliant team. And so what they did is they built this product from the ground up, approaching it from the point of view, from the perspective of the user. So what would make things easier for the user, and at the same time for our customers, the people who will consume the data, for our clients. So yun yung mga customers namin, the banks and the lending institutions. So behind this technology is all we leverage modern technologies. Of course, we use cloud-based technologies. So without going into the weeds about the technical terms, but a distributed asynchronous architecture. We extract the data from various sources. We have a mechanism to normalize that data and send that via just what people call an API. So basically, a means for information and data to be transmitted from one system to another in a digital way, in a seamless way.
Yeah, you mentioned no, that parang Smile API's clients are the banks, those institutions. So parang what's the value for them? I'm just imagining parang why should they choose Smile API parang aside from other means to get data to yun nga mag-apply. So yeah.
That's a great question. So number one, I mean, one is our coverage. Kasi in traditional lending, they would either get your information about the borrower from one, self-reported data by the borrower. So, di ba, typical sa atin yung magsasubmit ka na napakahabang form, tapos mag-upload ka na napakaraming ID, tapos well, number one, hindi nila alam kung if they can trust that data kasi self-reported yun eh. Number two, a lot of those documents ang hirap kunin. I mean, alam mo naman sa atin, di ba? Pipila ka pa or hihingi ka pa sa HR. So, baka isang linggo pa lang para mag-apply ka lang ng 500 peso loan. Baka isang linggo mo gagawin. Tapos, the other thing is, so that's yung difficulty with that self-reported data. The other thing is very hard to process that data. So, lenders or banks would typically hire an army of people to go through that sometimes very unstructured data. Usually mga scanned payslips or yung mga ganyan. So very difficult to process, very time-consuming, very expensive. Now, the other ways, they would get data from external sources, like from credit bureaus, kung tawagin. So there in the Philippines, there's the CIC. But the credit bureaus they're dependent on data reported by the banks. So you will only be covered by the CIC if you have a bank account, if you have a credit card, if you have an outstanding loan from a formal institution, like a car loan or mortgage. Maraming Pilipino wala namang bank account eh. Maraming Pilipino transact lang via cash. So yung coverage is very low. So that's where we come in. So we are what the industry calls alternative credit data providers. So kahit na wala kang bank account, basta may trabaho ka, basta may payslip ka, basta yung system mo nasa government systems or nasa employment platform, we can get that data and we can assemble that into some sort of a credit report to help lenders make a informed credit decision.
Wow, amazing. So you're also doing the dirty work. Parang you're also doing like collating all of this data from those government agencies, all those different sources na kung saan sinubmit na ng mga tao yung mga data. Is that right? May ganun bang?
That's correct. Yeah, we have different means to do it. There's different means that we do it, but we do that legwork, that dirty work behind the scenes to make it easier for the user.
Wow, it's really great now that I've found out what you're really doing. Wow. I mean, it's really helpful not just for those banks, for those institutions na mas verified nga kumbaga yung source of those who are applying for credit, of those who are applying for jobs, for work, but also for the Filipinos, actually for the people na yun nga, yung kalat kumbaga linilinis na rin ni Smile API sama parang bringing the organization of all those things. Pero I just want to ask, I think Smile API didn't really start from the Philippines, pero now really heavy yung parang expanding and yung pag-build ng market sa Philippines. So why? Yeah, can you tell this story behind and why the Philippines maybe?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, we are a company that's really born out of the pandemic. We are a distributed team. So technically, we're not. We're registered in Singapore because we have the plan to expand across the region. but we're actually distributed. So our CTO is in Shanghai, our CEO is in Singapore, I am here in Manila. Um, but and there are we have team members in different countries all over. So we were born out of the pandemic. We just we work remote, but we make it work. So the reason, so our idea was always to go across Asia, but the reason we started with the Philippines is because number one, we feel that there is this is the perfect market for this type of idea. Number one, there is a large population. There's a large unbanked or underbanked population, probably number two in the region. So Indonesia, of course, being the largest. Second is there is a favorable regulatory environment. So there is a very progressive regulators. The DSP has been very progressive. Number three, the population. There's a growing demand for financial services. Young people getting a mortgage for the first time, getting a credit card for the first time, getting a car loan for the first time, growing wealth in the Philippines. So more and more appetite for consumer loans. And yeah, of course, great market, great talent here, of course. So a lot of our heads, in fact, some of them are attending. Si Joanna, very brilliant marketer, is with us. So a lot of great talent here, of course. And of course, the language ability. So it's easier to do business in an English-speaking country.
Yeah, and it's very true. I think Philippines is one of the countries na parang mabilis din mag-adapt sa technology, especially during the pandemic, nung nag-online lahat, kumbaga isang Pilipinas sa mga mabilis mag-adapt into like using these digital tools, especially with crypto parang I think we're one of the countries na parang primary adopters ng this new technology. So I think very good opportunity to start with the Philippines. I'm not that familiar kasi with like the financial sector, fintech especially. Parang but maybe can you just let us know what's the range of use cases maybe na that Smile API can I mean the product can provide for, like, and especially maybe not just sa financial sector. Meron ba pang ibang applications, ibang industries na maaring mabigyan ng value or ng contribution ni Smile API?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one is yung account opening or application process, yung na-mention ko kanina, kaysa mag-fill up ka ng marami-raming form na typically yung information naman na yun paulit-ulit lang sa provide mo na sa employer mo or sa other sources. So we can pre-populate that form or pre-fill that application process to make it, instead of making it an hour to fill up, make it 5 seconds, right? So that's one. Another is credit verification, credit assessment, credit decisioning. So basically, for the lenders, parang risk management. So titingnan nila yung profile mo, and then they can make a decision. Okay, kaya ba ni Jan bayaran tong loan niya kung ganito lang yung income niya? So yun. The other one is actually any company that provides credit. So for example, 'di ba telco, 'di ba? You ask, 'di ba, you to boost your credit limit, 'di ba? They would ask for proof of employment, proof of income. Same for utilities, like electricity, etc. Same for rentals. Like we can foresee a use case for property, for PropTech, where to streamline yung rental collection and rental verification, provide mo lang proof of income, proof of employment, especially if you're going to rent a very expensive apartment. And then we have other use cases in mind. So things like, of course, employment verification, employment screening. What if instead of, di ba sa HR, pagtatanggapin ka na sa trabaho, magsasubmit ka na napakaraming documents. So para lang makapag-apply, it will take you several weeks. So what if we can at least shortcut, at least reduce those steps by just getting that data already from other sources?
Yeah, so I'm seeing Smile is not just an API actually. Meron bang possibility na parang merong page kumbaga yung bawat tao. Kumbaga parang yeah, may page, may central page na parang they can choose andyan yung data nila, and then they can choose which this information, this data, sino yung magkaka-access nito, banks, employers, whatever. So parang may ganun bang with the product of Smile? I just want to ask.
That is a possibility. To be honest, again, we'd rather not keep the data. That's one. So we'd rather work with, because there are other companies already providing that. They're providing decentralized identity, and they already have the technology. Maybe they're on the blockchain or something like that. So we'd rather partner with those companies so that we can share that data to those kinds of companies. Again, we think of ourselves as more of a gateway or an infrastructure, parang toll road provider, rather than providing the building. Parang
Yeah,
ganun.
it's more of really the partnerships and the bridging kumbaga. Pero I just want to ask, parang when a person will, kasi some of Smile will be in the back end eh. So parang magkakaroon ba ng recognition yung tao na he's using Smile pala, he's using Smile's API pala, he's using Smile's bridges pala. May ganun bang ano? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. That's our goal na somehow ma-recognize na, okay, pag nakita nila yung Smile logo na maliit dun sa there's kasi a component, we call it the wink widget yung tawag namin. It's part of the journey, customer journey na i-link nila yung account nila. So hopefully there's a recognition, there's an element of trust. The same way, 'di ba, when you pay online, 'di ba, you see a logo of the gateway provider, and that gives you an element of provides an element of trust na kilala ko to, ito yung gateway. Nakita ko tong gateway na to kung saan e-commerce stores. So parang ganun, para kaming gateway, pero instead of transmitting payment data or credit card data, tinatransmit namin yung employment data mo. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Just one final question before we go dun sa medyo philosophical part natin. Parang in the Philippines, which specific institutions parang have you been partnering up with na parang, yeah, so just we can do parang ano na yung nagiging reach kumbaga ni Smile?
Yeah. So on the data source side, we're working with any company that holds employment data. So we're reaching out, and in fact, if some of the startups are listening, we'd like to partner with you. We'd like to include your users into the ecosystem. So if you're a gig economy platform provider, or you're an e-commerce platform, you have some means of providing employment and income data, and you want to give your user base access to financial services, please talk to us. We can be the bridge or gateway para hindi na kayo mahirapan with the integration. We will help you with that. On the client side, we were working with lenders, with banks, with financial services companies, but in the future we want to expand that. In the future we might want to talk to insurance companies, utility companies. So that's what we want to do in the future as well.
Yeah, actually it's true. Even with the startups that I've talked to, parang marami nga maaari yung may access na to data na maaari nga makapag-partner with Smile as their bridge somehow din ano. Yeah, so punta tayo sa ating medyo philosophical slash beauty contest question. So with what Smile is doing ano, especially yung aspect ng data ownership and financial inclusion. So I want to ask about that. How in your opinion, parang gaano ka-importante yung like yung value kumbaga that Smile is bringing, yung data ownership and access to own data, kumbaga control with their own data for the people, especially for the Filipinos.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Again, your data is an asset. It's something that you should be able to leverage and hopefully make it work for you. Should be something that you can leverage for and use as a means to get access to better opportunities. So that's why we built Smile, and that's our philosophy. So yun, very important sa amin yun. Very important to empower and enable Filipinos. And again, this is just a means. Ultimate goal is really to enable financial inclusion, to give access to more opportunities for everyone. And hopefully when enough people get better opportunities, it's like yung saying na a rising tide lifts all boats. So sabay-sabay tayong aangat kasi lahat tayo may kapasidad na use the money to start our own business, to enroll in more education. So that helps, at the end of the day, it helps everyone.
Yeah, that's my other question. With regard to financial inclusion, you've mentioned nga that Philippines napakaming unbanked. So parang how exactly is Smile gonna help these unbanked people? Kasi parang kasing legitimate ba maybe ng data na maaring within Smile's API yung data maaari na within this bank accounts. Parang ganun may aspect na parang hindi na kailangan maging bank kumbaga yung mga tao. But by the bridges of Smile, para magkakaroon sila ng access maybe to loans, to insurance claims, whatever. So may ganun vision ba?
Yeah, so our vision is really just to parang enable yun nga, parang enable access and para ma-reduce yung friction to getting access to financial services. So the ideal world, in an ideal world, everybody has a bank account, everybody has easy access to credit, everybody has access to a centralized identity system. Like sa ibang bansa ganun eh. Pero in reality, sa Pilipinas, and also to be fair, in many other emerging markets, wala pa dun, malayo pa. So so we feel that Smile solves that gap, solves that problem dahil madami pa ngang walang bangko, walang credit history data, walang even basic identity data. So we solve that problem with something that's already there. Employment data is scattered all around, and we can leverage that. We should leverage that and use that for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, I like this conversation kasi we're talking about the ideal world. Like it's true maybe in the ideal world sana nga bawat I'm not sure with ano yung magiging direction ng Philippines para magkarma tayo ng national ID, very very important issue. Pero maybe nga with Smile, kumbaga hindi kailangan maging centralized. We can decentralize everything pero andyan yung access and each one has their own control and access to the data. Now, hindi necessarily may centralized um something, may centralized entity na nagko-control. Parang it's more of decentralizing. Is that right?
Correct. That's absolutely right. So hindi kailangan, we don't have to wait for somebody like government to organize everything. And to be fair, that's very difficult, especially for a country na 110 million people and it's islands, and because of the you know what I mean, the history we have, and so very difficult. So given that reality, okay, isolve na lang natin some other way. Let's just provide the means to collect that data. Kahit di na natin centralize. Kasi sa ibang bansa nagawa nila eh. Kasi siguro maliit sila or maunlad sila. Tayo, hindi tayo ganun. So let's solve the problem another way.
Yeah, given the barriers, cultural barriers and physical barriers, we're an archipelago, so maraming barriers. Pero I really like the idea. Now that I've known more, I'm really mind blown really with what Smile wants to do. It's really amazing, to be honest. Yeah, so that's it. It's really this conversation is really kumbaga mind-blowing to me, and ang dami ko na-realize, ang dami ko pag-iisipan pa mamayang gabi. Pero I really like what Smile is doing. So, yeah, thank you very much, John. If our listeners want to know more about Smile, maybe na-inspire din sila sa inyong vision, sa inyong gusto mangyari. So, how can they get more information? Or maybe they want to partner with you, especially our startups. Maybe they want to build some partnerships with you. So, where can they contact you? How can they reach you?
Sure. So you can reach us via our website. So please visit us at getsmileapi.com. So again, getsmileapi.com. So one word. You can also find us on social media. So we have our Facebook channel, facebook.com/getsmileapi, Twitter, and we also have a YouTube channel. Just look for Smile API. Also on LinkedIn. So yeah, so the various ways to get in touch with us. Also connect with me via LinkedIn. I'll be happy to add you. And yeah, so let's have a conversation. Let's make open data happen. Let's make financial inclusion happen.
Open data, I think that's the keyword. So maraming salamat, Jan. I'll put those links below in the description also. So yeah, if our listeners want to reach out to Jan and to Smile, so use those links. And maraming salamat. This is a really good conversation. Salamat, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.